Welcome to the Show Up Built to Win sales training webinar. My name is Daryl Dittmer. You're probably asking yourself, who is this Daryl Dittmer guy? Well, I've been a number of different things in my life. I'm currently an entrepreneur, a sales coach, and an author. I've had some wonderful financial success in my life coming from a very blue-collar Midwestern background. It may or may not have been expected, but we didn't grow up with much. And quite honestly, I got into sales almost by accident. I had heard that people could make money in sales, and I wanted to make more money than I grew up with. So early on in my life, I got into a pretty fair amount of trouble, and I decided at one point that I wanted to change. I wanted to change me. I wanted to change my life. I wanted to have more than I grew up with. And I wanted to feel good. So that was a pretty tall order for a young guy, but ultimately what I committed to doing, and I probably didn't realize it at that time, but I committed to building me. I committed to putting myself in a position where I could be successful. And success can mean a lot of different things to a lot of folks. At that time in my life, success meant I wanted to make money. So I got involved in sales. It was really almost accidental, kicking and screaming, but I knew I needed to do something different than how I had grown up. So I was hired into a small firm, probably a few $100,000, maybe $1 million in revenue at the most, because I asked several times to be involved in that firm. I became the largest or the number one sales guy in that firm. And because I worked hard and because I was trying like hell and because I wasn't going to say no, because I had this opportunity and in becoming the number one sales guy, I became valuable to the company. And a mentor of mine said, you know what, if you become valuable, very valuable to a company, try to get ownership. So I asked for ownership, and I found myself in a position where I ultimately became the second largest shareholder in this company. And just to make a long story short, that company ended up selling for just shy of $10 billion. So that was my entree into sales. I've had a lot of experience in sales. My life has been about sales since I was a young person, and in one way or the other. So stay tuned. We got some cool stuff that we're going to teach, that I'm going to teach, that's probably unlike anything you've ever learned in sales to this point. Now, I don't want you to worry. You're not going to get bored. This isn't one of your, run-of-the-mill sales trainings. This is not another script writing, closing techniques, or handling objections training. I couldn't do that to you, honestly, in good conscience, because I'm sure you've gotten a ton of those trainings. So this training is about you. This training is about building you. And so you can show up and be successful for you and those people that you need to be or want to be successful for. And that's what I wanted to do. That was, my life. Once I started and had some success in sales and started moving, man, nothing could stop me, but you have to get to that point. You have to be able to withstand. And these are the things we're going to talk about. You have to be able to withstand getting ghosted. You have to withstand getting disappointed when deals fall apart, when the stress builds up, when the bills pile up, when outside pressures are questioning you. How do you withstand those things? And how do you keep yourself from folding up your tent and going home? And that's what this training is about. This training is about building yourself so that you can withstand the difficulties. So there's only one determinant of your success or your failure. And that is what you decide to do. So what you decide and then how you do it, that's it. That's all there is. That's what determines your success or your failure. And that is absolutely the only thing that matters as far as building yourself for a solid sales career, because that's what it takes. Most people that leave sales quit. They don't get fired. They quit because they can't handle it. I was looking up some statistics the other day, and life insurance salespeople within the first year, almost 90% of those salespeople quit. The reason they quit is they're not prepared to handle the tough stuff. So it doesn't matter where you are in your life right now. I've seen lots of success in my life, and from people that you would think like, man, how did they do it? And people who came from a lot less than what I came from have had a lot more success than me. So where you start doesn't matter to me, and it shouldn't matter to you, quite honestly. The only thing that matters is that you are willing to do what it takes to give yourself the gift of success. And it is a gift to yourself. It's a gift to your family. It's a gift to your loved ones. And when I say success, I expand that outside of just money. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But think about giving yourself the gift of success, and whatever it takes to get there, I promise you it's worth it. I'll make a promise to you that you will walk away at least beginning to understand all the tools you'll need to be successful, not just in sales, but also in life, because a lot of these things are interchangeable. So you'll understand and know the value of your why, which is paramount to your success. You have to know your why. You have to understand. Your why has to be big enough for you to get your butt kicked, and your why being more important to you than anything. That's how that works. Your why has to be worth it. It has to be big enough. You will take 100% ownership of your success or your failure. It's completely up to you. It's what you decide. And I can tell you that unequivocally. It is up to you and what you decide as far as what you will experience in this life. We're going to talk about what you might want to jettison. There's a lot of toxins in this life. We are fed toxins 24/7, whether it's, news or social media or whatever. And sometimes it's friends. Sometimes it's family. There are things in our lives that we're going to want to maybe not keep in our lives, or maybe keep at a distance because we want our success in life more than anything else. You will begin to develop and maybe strengthen what you already have in terms of an unwavering resilience and mental toughness. These are absolutely indispensable when it comes to success in this life. You'll be able to perform under pressure. And this webinar will introduce you to that. And my full training just really goes deep into how to achieve these things and how to attain these mindsets that I'm talking about, and being able to perform when you don't feel like it, or when you don't think you can. I'll tell you a quick story. I used to have panic attacks. I remember traveling with the president of our company to a big deal from, in Cincinnati. We were coming out of Boston, and I almost couldn't breathe a couple of minutes before going into this meeting. I was scared to death. And at one point I felt like I was going to pass out, and I was having a panic attack. It's been a long time, but these are the things that can happen. And we have to be able to overcome these things and move forward anyway. We're going to develop strong, trusting relationships with people who are worthy of having strong, trusting relationships with. Some people aren't capable of it, but I want you to learn how to be capable of it, and you will. Your most valuable tool, the tool that will absolutely be the most valuable to you in any undertaking, and has been, but now you know, from now for the rest of your life, your most valuable tool is you, and what you decide to do and how you decide to move forward. So you're going to be able to experience personal and professional success with the principles that I teach. And we'll go into a lot of them in this training. We go a lot deeper into them in my 5-part, 5-hour training. But you're in for probably some things that you have not heard in previous sales trainings. And that's really what I want you to accomplish. I want you to be able to round out your perspective in terms of what it truly takes to experience success in this life. Why isn't everybody successful? Really? Why isn't everybody successful? Why are only, probably no more than 10% of people successful in a way that you'd say, wow, that person really is something. They really made a success out of themselves. Why is it so few? I'll give you a hint. I've never heard a successful person say this. Man, had I known how easy it was going to be, I would have, blah, 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 done it 30 years ago. Never hear that. I've never heard a successful person say, and I've known a lot of them, man, that was easy. That's why people aren't successful. So what are you taught when you're young? You're taught to avoid difficulty, taught to avoid sacrifice. What are we asked to lean into for everything we see on, if you watch the news or you're on social media or you're watching commercials? It's all about comfort, convenience, and avoiding difficulty, avoiding difficult things. That's what we're taught to do. And so we have to kind of stand on our heads, especially in sales. If we're going to show up and build something, it's not going to be comfortable. So you need to understand that right now before anything else. And you know what? Maybe you just put up your hand and say, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I just need to be comfortable. I need everything to be convenient. Okay, head home. Because, warm up the bus. It's over. It's not going to be that way. So if you get used to that and you understand that that is part of the journey and that difficulty is a part of success, then when it happens, you're not surprised and you're not like, oh man, I can't take it. Because the people that can't take it are the people that aren't going to be successful. So you're always building something. And you have to ask yourself, what am I building? What am I building with my life? What am I building with myself? Because you can build something that'll hurt you, or you can build something that will help move you towards success. And you have to understand that you're always building. So what are you building and how are you building it? And when I say that, I'm referring to your career in sales, but I'm also referring to your life. So my why when I was younger was honestly, it was pretty simple. I did not want to, because I had seen relatives of mine die in nursing homes, hospitals, that sort of thing. I did not want to end up being at the mercy of a place that I couldn't afford, and I'm stuffed into this place to go die. And that was my why. I wanted to be able to afford to call it my way as much as I could help it. And so that has not been my why in a long time, but that's how I started. And it was a very important one for me because it had to do with, real stuff, like end of life stuff. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that your why should be big. It should be meaningful. It should be something that you can lean back on and get some support from when you're not feeling it, and that will happen. But it should also change. And your why should also, once you've hit those intentions and those things you've wanted to do, your why should change, and it can morph into whatever you want it to be. My why at this point in my life is to help as many people as I can have a better life. And I don't mean financially, I mean in every area of their life. That's what I want to do. And that's my why. And that's why I do things that I'm not comfortable doing. I do things that I don't feel like doing because my why is bigger than how I feel. So ask yourself questions and real questions. Where do I want to be in 20 years, in 10 years, in 5 years? How will it feel if I don't get there? If I'm 30 right now and I'm staring up at success like, oh, damn, this might suck. This is going to be difficult. If I'm staring up at success and I say, you know, where do I want to be when I'm 50? And where I want to be is I want to have $3 million in the bank. Better get to work. But how are you going to feel if you don't get there? And that's what I want you to feel. I want you to feel what it's like to not get there. And that should help move you forward. And what do you want to be doing? What do you want to be doing, say, when you're 50 or 60 years old? You want to be taking a lot of vacations, or you want to be wondering when you're going to be able to retire? I'm going to recommend taking vacations. It's pretty cool. So in sales, normally what you're taught is you're taught to sell. You're taught to write scripts. You're taught to, closing techniques. You're taught to handle objections, those kinds of things. Those things are not going to build a sturdy you. Those things are not going to keep you from quitting or wanting to quit or backing off when things get difficult. Success lives in the difficult. So you're going to get enough sales trainings. You're going to get enough trainings on scripts and closing techniques. But when it hits the fan for you, when things get difficult and you've gotten 30 no's in a row, you can go write all the scripts that you want. They're not going to help you. They're not going to change your experience in sales. What's going to change your experience in sales is building a sturdy, mentally and emotionally tough you. That's the only thing. So financial security, confidence, and fulfillment aren't accidents. They're built. I was a little generous when I said, up to 10% of people experience success. 1% experience crazy success, up to 5% experience, certainly a great level of success. So what does that mean? That means you've got to outperform a heck of a lot of people to get into that 1 to 5%. The good news is you can grab that attitude, that I'm going to do it. I'm going to outperform. I'm going to be better than 95 to 99% of the people out there in terms of my performance so that I can get into that 1 to 5%. Once you start experiencing just a little bit of that, I promise you, your life will change and you won't care as much about the tough stuff. And you'll really learn to love, honestly, difficulty, because it'll become a challenge as opposed to like, oh man, I don't want to do that. You'll love the challenge and you'll love the next challenge and you'll learn to love the next challenge. And that is a really cool place to be. And that's what I can teach you. I'm sure you've heard someone say at some point in your life, you better believe it. I've heard that many, many times and about various things, but applying this to you being a successful salesperson, business person, there's a shred of belief that you have to carry with you until you start to experience success for yourself. And through the failures, through the difficulties. So So I'm a big fan of dreaming big. Why the hell not? Dream big. And I was introduced early on in my sales career to goals. And I'm like, oh, okay, goals. And it never really felt quite right to me in terms of goals, because it seemed to me that my goal, or I'm here, my goal's here, and I might not get there. You know, I might have to settle for less than my goal. There's no faith involved. There's no belief involved. It's just put your head down and drive to your goal. That's how it felt to me. And then I was introduced to intentions, and intentions to me felt very different. Intention to me was something that it's not like I'm here and my goal's here. I'm here and my intention is with me, and I'm moving my intention, and I'm moving toward my intention, and it includes that faith and includes that belief, because I'm intending to do it. It's not a goal, it's an intention. And that was a crucial distinction for me. And how that played out for me was I hit all my intentions a long time ago, and maybe they weren't big enough, but I'm on to other intentions now. And honestly, life has become something that I never would have been able to dream of. And because I chose my lane, and I chose who and what I wanted to be. So, and what I intended to be, and what I intended to achieve, and money was way too shallow. Just money was way too shallow. So it came down to, who do I want to develop into? And am I proud of who I have developed into, or will I be proud if I develop into that person? And I had to carry that with me. And I think that's really important to understand, because a shallow person with a lot of money is just a shallow person with a lot of money. And I don't recommend it. I really don't. I've met a lot of them, and I don't recommend it. Build yourself. My mom used to say to me, and I don't know how, she had her own struggles, but she said, I think her dad used to say it to her, but she said, what you don't have, you don't need. And I was like, wow, that hit pretty hard. And the reason that hit hard was because I don't know if I was buying it. I was a pretty flawed guy, and I was, in my younger years, I didn't know up from down, right from wrong. I was doing a lot of bad things. But I think it's important to understand that, or at least have a rudimentary, or, sort of a basic level of understanding that you have everything inside of you that you need. And I believe this about you. I absolutely believe it about you. What you don't have, you don't need. And whatever you need will come out from you. It's not going to get necessarily downloaded into you. It's going to come from you. And that's from doing uncomfortable things and growing your confidence, and then doing more uncomfortable things, and then growing your confidence and growing your abilities. And then at some point you're looking at yourself, or you're looking back, and you're like, man, I've changed. And people will see that you've changed. So I'm going to say one quick word about potential. Doesn't mean a damn thing. Doesn't mean a damn thing. Everybody in this world has the potential, because what you don't have, you don't need. But if you don't use it, then you never experience it. You never experience that success. So carry that with you. What you don't have, you don't need. And think about not downloading, but uncovering what's inside of you already. So I want you to remember what you were taught, and this is important, and then forget what you were taught. It's important to open up your belief system about what's possible. And I had to do that. Growing up in a very blue-collar background, my dad was a mechanic, and, one time he was like, I think I was probably 20 years old. He's like, hey, man, I can get you a job on the assembly line. And I'm like, you know what? And it would have been good money for me at that time in my life. And I was like, I think I'm good. I think I'm going to pursue other things. No idea what I was going to pursue, but I wanted something bigger. That was something inside of me that wanted something bigger. And that had to do with my belief system about what was possible was starting to expand. And so when I say forget what you were taught, I mean, there are many things that you can do without that you were taught. And not to say that they're bad, but maybe there's another way to think about them. Maybe there's an expanded version of what you believe or what you were introduced to believing. Maybe there's something larger. And my life now is, I take in everything. I don't shun it because, I can't believe that because, something bad's going to happen. Like, look, take it all in. You'll sort through it in here and in here. But bring it in. Don't shun things, because sometimes those things that you're shunning might be the best thing for you and for your growth and for ultimately your success. 100% so important to upgrade your beliefs and habits. And you can't experience life, I don't believe. You can't have an experience of this life and believe the same things at the end of your life that you believe at the beginning of your life. Because if you do, I don't know what you've been doing the whole time. Because life unfolds and we get more information and more, head information, but also heart information that can change us and that can absolutely affect our lives in really, really profound ways. So I guess what I'm saying is open up. Just open up to possibilities. The last one I want to say, and this is important to me because when I was coming up in business and sales and learning and cutting my teeth on this stuff and getting my butt handed to me, every day because I was trying real hard, it was just part of the process and it was part of doing it. And now we rely so much on, I don't know if I can because, my this or my that or my inner child or, it's not your inner child's responsibility for you to be successful. It's yours. And you can take your life and do whatever you want with it. And I want you to hear that. You can take your life and do whatever you want with it. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody is going to overcome your fears, feel your feels, take risks, deal with traumas or events or disappointments or anything for you. You have to do it for you. And I'm sorry, but that is what life entails in order to move forward to success. It just does. There's nothing you can do about it. So the more you say, well, I can't because, I didn't have the right upbringing or I have traumas or I have, inner child stuff that's not letting me do it. Look, all those things are important to address in your life, but address them along the way to your success. Don't use them as a roadblock for your success because ultimately, honestly, it's just another excuse. I've got plenty of, stuff in my backpack as far as my life goes, but at some point you can't carve it up into like, I can't because, or, this and that. At some point it's just life, and it includes disappointment. It includes traumas. It includes difficulty. It includes, my parents weren't perfect, but they did the best they could. And sometimes maybe they didn't do the best they could, but it's up to me now to do something different. So that's what Show Up Built to Win is. It's building you and building your internal structures and whatever that entails to allow you to move toward success. And that is absolutely what this is all about. The only place that anything ever really changes is when your boots are on the ground and you're doing. When you're taking radical responsibility for your life, for every aspect of your life, and in sales, for every aspect of your sales experience. So radical responsibility is non-negotiable. It is not something you can, put on the shelf and say, I don't really feel like it right now. Then you won't get results. That's just how it works. So it's not in the dreams, it's not in the hopes, it's not in the wishes, it's on the ground in your life. That's the only place that things happen, or that things can happen. So the good news is there's only 3 things that you're in charge of. 3 things. That's it. Your attitude, your effort, and your ultimate success or failure. And to take responsibility for those 3 things 100% is going to change your life. The better news, there's only 3 things that you're not in charge of. This one gets a little hairy, but it'll provide you with some freedom. The 3 things are what I call the nouns: people, places, and things. They are not in charge of you, which is great news, and you are also not in charge of them. Although, wouldn't it be great if you were? Well, probably not really. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of control issues if you think you're responsibility for other people, places, and things. You're just not. So that takes pressure off, or that should take pressure off, because the only person that you're responsible for is you. And that's great. All I have to worry about is me. Everybody else in my life can take care of themselves unless I am charged with taking care of them. So think about that. The freedom that you get and how much time and energy you will have available to you when you remember that on a daily basis. So one thing I want you to know is, and this is very important, hope is a wonderful thing, and it can help sort of get us out of jams and make us feel a little better for the future and that sort of thing. But it is not a strategy for living. You can't hope your way into success. You have to work your way into success. And I don't mean, necessarily all of it has to do with hard work. It also has to do with a number of other things, but it's far beyond hoping or wishing or dreaming or praying. Those things aren't going to get you where you want to go. So, and, an important thing about hoping and having dreams and that kind of thing is, I didn't grow up with much. I didn't get a lot of the things that I wanted as a kid. We just didn't have the money to be able to afford them. And so I would spend a lot of time hoping, and I would spend a lot of time daydreaming about the things that I wanted. And maybe that contributed to my, ability and desire and willingness to go get those things, because I have more now than I ever dreamed I would ever have in my life. But it had nothing to do with the hope. It had to do with the doing. So part of the doing is in your habits. And your habits are on the ground. They're the work on the ground, and they build your path. So you have to decide which path those habits are building. If you have bad habits, you're building a destructive path. And if you have good habits and healthy habits, you're going to start developing a more healthy future for yourself. That's just how it works. So maybe consider, hey, is there some garbage I need to take out? Are there some toxins I need to rid myself of so that I can take advantage of and apply good habits or better habits to my life. So this next one, intend, expect, and do the work. I'm a big believer of intentions, as I've mentioned. I expect the best from myself. I really do expect the best from myself. And for me to have those intentions and expect the best from myself, the only thing left to do is the work. That's the only thing there is left to do. And we have to sometimes remind ourselves of our intention and our why and our expectation for ourselves, so that we just continue to go consistently do the work. And doing the work, the boots on the ground, is showing up for that is what's going to get us there. So the bad news, there's no one left to blame. And that's a pretty cool thing. That frees you up from pointing your finger at other people, at other situations, at market conditions, at whatever it is. You don't get to blame anybody else, and you don't get to have any more excuses. The only thing left to do is perform. So wonderful news. The better news is it's all on you. That should clear up all the confusion. It's all on you. Just like nobody's going to be a failure for you, nobody is going to be a success for you. And that's a great place to be. That gives you more freedom to take responsibility. You are the last obstacle. And once you build you and show up for you and start to fulfill those dreams for you, that's real freedom. And that's a pretty cool place to be. What happened to you? Do you want to become unrecognizable? I spent, probably 20 years, maybe 25 after high school. And I was kind of a handful in high school, and then I started talking to people from high school, social media, and I saw them, and they're like, "Oh, wow, you did this, and you own that, and you wrote that, and you did." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like kind of looking at me like, "Really? But don't you want to be unrecognizable in X number of years in a good way, for the people that maybe didn't expect much from you as life, went on?" And I know in high school, I was definitely one of those people. I think people are surprised and some maybe not too pleasantly surprised, but honestly, I could care less on what anybody thinks. So some of the things that you'll start to see in yourself, which I think is incredibly important and wonderful to experience, is life's ups and downs will not continue to rule your days. Because that, the ups and the downs, what you want to do is you kind of want to level those out a little bit. You don't want to get too crazy high if things go great, and you don't want to get too down in the dumps if things don't go well. And the more you put yourself out there and the more you take risks and the more you experience life, the only thing you're going to want to do, and this is pretty cool, is you're going to want to address things. You're going to want to adjust as you need to, and you're going to want to keep going. Those are the three things in your life that you're going to be interested in doing. And that's a pretty cool place to be. So fulfillment will begin to show itself. And fulfillment doesn't mean money. It can include money. But to me, fulfillment is much more than money. You'll start to wake up feeling like, man, this whole life thing is kind of cool. And you're going to feel that way because you're doing it, because you're doing life. You're not thinking about life. You're not dreaming about life. You're doing life. And you're probably doing it in a way that I'm teaching you now, but that I can also teach in my full training that goes a lot deeper than this. So disappointments will not stop you anymore. They will fuel you. And one of the things that I remembered and still remember whenever I get a no in any area of life, but if I'm if I'm selling something, my trainings, for instance, certain words I think are important to be able to say to ourselves so that we don't get caught up in the disappointment. So here's what I say when I get a no. Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? I want you to remember that. Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? Takes the sting out. You're only allowed, a very short period of time from getting a no to getting back up. And that will help you if you can say that to yourself. Your life is going to start feeling more meaningful every day. And again, because you're doing it, not because you're thinking about it or dreaming it, but because you're doing it. You will start to show up as the real you. And this is important. This is very important for you to understand and sort of integrate into your being. And I know today they would call it authentic. We used to call it be real. Today they call it authentic. But the authentic you is the successful you. That's the one that's doing it. That's the one that's taking the risks. That's the one that's pursuing this thing called life. The inauthentic you isn't taking care of themselves, isn't trying, isn't doing the things that need to be done to be successful. That's the inauthentic you. You don't want to be that you. You want to be the authentic you because that really fuels your life. Your energy will begin to soar. And the reason is because you're building something, and that something is you, along with your sales career, but you're using time in an intelligent way. You're paying attention to your health. You're paying attention to your relationships. You're paying attention to trust and mindset. And there is no more, oh, I don't feel like it, or, oh man, that's too difficult. That just goes away. And so when you're not stopping yourself and you're not tethering yourself to an anchor by doing the wrong things, your energy will go through the roof. Your confidence will soar along with doing all of these things because you're going to feel so damn good about yourself and what you're doing every single day. People are going to notice the changes in you. And more importantly, you are going to notice the changes in you. In behaviorally, inside of you, you're going to start to feel like this whole life thing is pretty freaking cool. And that's a great place to be. You're going to feel like your life is being built underneath you and it's holding you up. Your life is supporting you. And when you're showing up and you're building something and that building of something is you, there becomes a foundation under you that's almost unshakable, almost unravelable. And so if you want to change you, and this is something really important that I say to people, and I drive this home a little more in my full training, but if you want to change the world, and a lot of people say they want to change the world, but if you really want to change the world, make a much better, well-rounded, successful you. And then everybody you touch, their lives will change as a result of being touched by a healthy, formidable, sturdy, being able to give those things away and show people that you're doing it and you've done it. That's a really cool place to be. And that is the foundation that you're currently building right now through this training. I've been fortunate, I guess you could call it fortunate, to work with and help a lot of salespeople over the years and a lot of people just in life. And, that's kind of what I'm here to do at this point, to give away some of the things that I've been given. And so I've talked to a lot of folks, a lot of people who just sales wasn't for them. A successful life beyond a certain point wasn't for them. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. But there's this one guy, and we'll call him Steve, and he came to me. He was probably 25, 26 at the time. Nice guy, nice young man. And he was struggling. He's ready to quit. And he just doesn't know where to turn, what to do. He's frustrated, as we all have been or will be in sales hundreds of times. But he wasn't prepared to withstand it. And he said, "Can you help me?" I said, "Well, the first question I have is, how big is your why? Is your why bigger than the pain you're experiencing? Is your why bigger than, oh, I need to quit because I'm just so disappointed I can't take the pain?" Your why's got to be a lot bigger than that, because you're going to have a lot more pain in your sales career than, in your first 2, 3, 4 years. If you want to have a long, successful career, it might go 20, 30 years. And so you're going to deal with a lot of no's and a lot of pain, and you got to learn how. So we didn't get to what his why was, but he understood what I was saying. Look, dude, your why needs to be something serious enough to get through difficulty. And I also said to him, look, there is not a salesperson that I've ever known in my life that didn't want to be successful in sales. And so you wanting to be successful doesn't mean a thing. So does everybody else. So Steve, how badly do you want it? And how much pain are you willing to go through to get it? That's the question. And what makes you different, dude? And he couldn't answer me. He didn't know what to say. I was like, what makes you different? What makes you think you're going to waltz into a sales career and not experience similar or worse pain than everybody else has experienced before you? Inconvenience, long days, weekends. I always tell people, and I said this to Steve, I said, dude, what are your weekends for? He's like, rest. I'm like, no, they're not. They're for prospecting. During the week, if you want to be successful, you're in front of clients and prospects. On the weekends, you do your prospecting, you do your setup, you do your paperwork, you do your script writing, all that stuff. If you want to be successful, if you don't, hey, go play softball and get drunk. I don't care what you do. But if you want to be successful, these are the things that you need to do. So we talked about 3 things. I said, number 1, your why. Is your why worth the pain? You got to figure that out and answer that question for yourself. If you want to beat out the top, if you want to be one of the top 1% to 5% performers on this planet or in this country, you got to beat out 95 to 99% of the people that are out there. And, the first 60, 70%, okay, maybe they don't want anything more than what, they currently have, and that's okay. But there's a tough bunch of people out there that are trying to do the same thing that you're doing, and they might be right next to you in your company. So you have to outperform them. Sorry, dude, but that's what you got to do. And the next thing is you got to commit to daily habits that support success. I mean, there is no other way to do it, because if you're exhausted all the time and you're late all the time and you don't feel good all the time because you have destructive habits in your life, you're not going to be a successful person. You might make some money, but you're not going to be a successful person. So along with committing to those habits, you have to commit to an ironclad, no BS policy for yourself. Can you do that, Steve? And he said, yes, I can. The last thing I said to him was, and I mean this to you, don't waste your time or anyone else's if you're not willing to go and commit to it and do it. And I said, Steve, if you're not willing to do these things, sales may not be for you. And that's just the truth. It's not for everyone. Wanting to be successful and wanting to make money doesn't really have a lot to do with it. You got to do all the work. So the good news is I recently ran into Steve. He's making more money. He's doing better. He's getting tougher. He's getting stronger. He's getting more sturdy. He's not stopped by, the silly little difficulties and the no's and all that sort of stuff that's just normal sales. I mean, that's what you get when you get in sales. So he's doing better, and I'm happy to see he's, this is a couple years later. So he's moving in the right direction. And I think, as sort of a last part to this, discussion, it's so important to understand that to have real success, it does take some time, and it probably is going to take longer than you think it's supposed to. And that's okay. One of the things I heard a long time ago, and this had more to do with life than sales, but I applied it to sales a lot. It's darkest sometimes before the dawn. So sometimes right when you think you're just done, something happens, a deal closes, things start moving in the right direction. And that's, if you stick around long enough, that's what you have to look forward to. What's next is committing to building you. And how do we do that? I want to help you with that. Schedule a free 15 to 30 minute consultation, just a quick chat for you or your team. However you want to do it. I will say that I highly recommend getting on my calendar. And the reason I say that is because this stuff works and I take a lot of vacations. And I don't mean that to sound, full of myself or anything like that, but it does work. And I do take a lot of vacations, and I want to help you get better. If you're committed to building you, I'm committed to building you. And that's what I want to do. So you and your team deserve this training. As an owner or a manager, your team will get a lot better. And another thing that you'll find out is who doesn't really want to do it. My trainings are very interactive, and they go very deep, and they get into the weeds with salespeople, and I do small groups, a max of 5 at a time. So you can't hide. You're going to find out who really wants to do it and who doesn't. And for any company, that can be a big savings because you're not paying for people who don't. The other thing that I'm happy to do, and I want to do, because I've got a couple books behind me that I wrote, and if you commit to the training, and once you go through the training and complete it, the 5-part training, I'd be happy to send you a copy of one of my books. Probably my first book is the one I would recommend, that basically tells my story from coming from very little to having more than I ever dreamed, quite honestly. Regarding success, again, and I can't really emphasize this enough, it's not just about the money, and my trainings are not just about making money. They will help you in every aspect of your life, every aspect of your life. And to have a successful life, you need that. You need to round it out. You need to expand it. You need to believe that there's always something bigger, not necessarily better, but there's always something to expand into. And that's a really cool way to live. And that's how we talk in these trainings. So honestly, decide today what you want your future to look like. Do you want to keep going to sales trainings that basically just tell you how to write scripts, how to close, how to handle objections, and, dress for success? You've heard it 1,000 times. I've heard it 1,000 times. That's not what built me into the success that I have had or that I enjoy today. So reach out, please schedule a consult, change the game, change it for yourself, change it for your team. You will find that it's absolutely worth it, and you will find out who wants to do it versus who doesn't, and you can build with those people that do. So thanks a lot for listening, everyone, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.